Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Freedom Office here in Sofia, Bulgaria. I am Rainer Adam, the Regional Director for Eastern Europe of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom. I'm 65 years old and I'm in my 30th year with the foundation. Needless to say, I believe in freedom, and I also believe in lifelong learning. In these difficult times of the COVID-19 pandemic, reading has become more attractive to many, again, and that's a good thing. I am an avid reader, and I read books. I mean, these things made out of paper and cardboard. If I read on a gadget, I noticed I don't remember anything. So this is why I read on paper. You might know from learning theory that we remember only about 10% of what we read. So reading looks like a very inefficient way of acquiring knowledge. But I combine reading with doing. Before I prepare a program or concept paper or conversation, I do targeted and selected reading. And I put what I have seen or read then into practice. I also read because I love to be liberated from my ignorance. I enjoy holding a book. I enjoy the intimacy of me and the book and the paper, and this process gives me great pleasure. Here we are in the foyer of the FNF office in Sofia. So everybody who comes into this office is going to meet three eminent philosophers of freedom, you know, and we have chosen three. We have chosen Karl Popper, we have chosen his student Ralph Dahrendorf, and we have of course chosen Hannah Arendt. And we have also selected some of their main works. We have Popper's The Open Society and Its Enemies, we have Hannah Arendt, The Origins of Totalitarianism, and we have Ralph Dahrendorf, Society and Freedom, in German Gesellschaft und Freiheit. The first three books I would like to introduce to you are the ones which are most formative for me. The first one, you know, is Violence and Social Order by Douglas North, John Wallis and Barry Weingast. For me as a practitioner, this book provides me with a basic understanding of how societies change. It gives me a theoretical framework which is very necessary, let's say, for anybody who is working for these change processes. The second book is Daniel Kahnemann's and Thinking Fast and Slow. This book allows you to get a better idea about your own biases, about judgment and decision making. And the third book, I don't have a paper copy with me, is The Black Swan from Nassim Taleb. It introduces you to uncertainty and how uncertain events can be very significant and formative for societal change. So these three are the books I highly recommend. These are, let's say, the bread and butter of any political transformation activist. The second category of books I would like to draw your attention to are the doomsdayers, you know, these pessimists, you know, of societal change. There's first Patrick Deenan, Why Liberalism Failed, or James Straub, What Was Liberalism? Or here from Levitsky at Ziblatt, How Democracy Dies, or David Runciman, How Democracy Ends. We have also in this group Yasha Monk, The People versus Democracy, Why Our Freedom is in Danger, or Ivan Krastev and Stephen Holmes, The Light That Failed, A Reckoning. This is the European edition. The American edition has a different title, but The Light That Fails, of course, is liberalism. So we liberals are, of course, optimists, and of course we have to be self-critical to look back what have we achieved. But I mean, for me, it's never liberalism that fails, it's always the people who apply liberal principles and subscribe to liberal values who fail maybe in their quest to deliver freedom, you know. So these are interesting books, but these are the pessimists, and for an optimist, it's very important to know what the pessimist thinks. Enjoy! Other authors I enjoy reading, for instance, is Timothy Garton Ash and his books on the free world or freedom, his essays. And then, of course, Francis Fukuyama, Identity, for instance. But I have also, of course, gone through the Origins of Political Order and other books of Fukuyama, of course. Then Edmund Fawcett and Liberalism is nice to read. And I go also for historical kind of books who look back in history. For instance, here the recent one which I read is Eric White's A World Divided, the Global Struggle for Human Rights. So these all make interesting reading, and I recommend all these books to you as well. One of our central topics is political communication or communication in general. And here I recommend 4 books. One, Drew Weston, The Political Brain, The Role of Emotions in Deciding the Fate of the Nation. This is the title of the book. So the role of emotions is especially important for us liberals, since we are rather brainy people. The second one is Jonathan Haidt, The Righteous Mind, which falls in that category. Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. The third one is George Lakoff, and Don't Think of an Elephant, Know Your Values and Frame the Debate. Very important for anybody who wants to communicate in the political field. And the last one by Frank Luntz, Words That Work. It's not what you say, it's what people hear. These are very important books when you deal with emotions and how to better communicate your messages. For the ones of you who work with political parties, to help political parties, I recommend 4 books. The first is Confronting the Weakest Link by Thomas Carothers. It helps you to better understand how to support political parties in a meaningful way. Then, of course, you will have to deal with populism, a phenomenon which affects us all. There is, of course, the seminal work of Jan Werner Müller, What is Populism? But I also recommend Steen van Kessel, Populist Parties in Europe, let's say, Agents of Discontent. And for all who work with startups in the political field, startup political parties, I recommend, of course, Josef Lensch from the NEOS, let's say formerly with the NEOS, Political Entrepreneurship, How to Build Successful Centrist Political Startups. Very hands-on, very practical, a book I highly recommend. The next group of books I selected for you is a kind of a mixed bag. The first one is The Dictator's Learning Curve of William Dobson, how to deal with tyrants and dictators. Very useful to learn how our opponents think, especially in countries or in regions where tyranny is on the march forward. A good book here is also Timothy Snyder, The Road to Unfreedom, Russia, Europe and America. Then a third book I would like to recommend is Archie Brown's The Myth of the Strong Leader, how political leadership is shaped in the modern age. Another book I think is very important is Bari Weiss and her book How to Fight Anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, especially in Europe, but elsewhere too. A very important a book, how to counter these evil tendencies. And at times it pays to look to the other side. What are our, let's say, opponents doing? And here this book is Another Politics, talking across today's transformative movements, written by people from the left, but very helpful. A lot of interesting tools, a lot of suggestions and things we as liberals can also benefit from their analysis and from the instruments they're using. The last two books I would like to recommend to you fall into the category of self-improvement, I would say. So the first one is by Priya Parker, The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters. And it has very, very concrete examples and concrete tips how you can make better use of very expensive conferences and larger meetings where we meet and then go away again. It helps you to better prepare and to have a follow-up to those meetings, which is meaningful. I tried it out in our last year's Future of Freedom consultation, and it worked very, very well. And the last book I would like to introduce to you is Nancy Kline and the Thinking Environment. Time to Think is the title of the book. There's a second one in this series. It introduces the thinking environment, an approach how through listening we ignite the human mind. We use this in our team retreat as a basis of it for our team retreat. It helps you to question your assumption. It helps you to formulate incisive questions, and it makes you a better co-worker, a better colleague, a better boss, and a better person in general. So these two books I highly recommend to you. Enjoy reading.